For too long, the law presumed one parent knew best. Tonight, we look at what happens when a father fights back against a system that often fails to see him. Welcome to Voices Unlocked. I'm Alex. Today, we have David, who has spent the last 2 grueling years fighting a custody battle for his son, Ethan. David, thank you for sharing your fight for equality.
Thank you for having me, Alex. It's not just a fight for custody. It's a fight to remain a primary parent, to prove that my role is equal.
When you and your ex-wife Lisa initially separated, where did the pushback on joint custody first emerge? Was there an immediate assumption of roles?
There was. Lisa immediately assumed she would get sole physical custody. Her lawyer's first letter was dismissive of my contribution. She claimed I was too career-focused due to my travel, ignoring that I worked remotely half the time and was the one doing 90% of the school runs, the doctor's appointments, and the homework help. She used my job flexibility, a strength, as evidence against my stability.
So you felt the system immediately defaulted to favoring the mother, forcing you to prove your commitment.
Absolutely. It felt like I had to constantly prove I wasn't just visiting my son, I had to prove I was his home. We had to meticulously document every single text, every receipt for his basketball gear, every school meeting, every parent-teacher conference I attended. I had to build a 2-year paper trail just to counter a gender bias that shouldn't exist under the best interests of the child standard. It was exhausting.
That level of documentation must take a huge emotional toll. Did the pressure of needing to perform as a perfect parent for the court impact your natural relationship with Ethan?
It created this awful background hum of anxiety. I was constantly second-guessing myself. Did I document that conversation? Did I save that email? It made me hyper-vigilant. Ethan noticed. He asked once why I was always taking pictures of him doing homework. I had to explain that sometimes adults have to fight very hard to stay together with the people they love most.
Let's talk about the specific legal tactics. Lisa's lawyer alleged parental alienation, that you were turning Ethan against her. That is a heavy and often damaging accusation.
That was the dirtiest tactic. It was baseless emotional warfare. I was just letting Ethan process his feelings about the divorce. But in court, that accusation is toxic. It forced me to spend tens of thousands proving my innocence, diverting attention from Lisa's own documented instabilities. I felt like I was defending my character, not my parenting skills. That legal maneuvering caused immense strain. You created a highly detailed custody plan. Can you describe what made your proposal stand out compared to a standard visitation schedule? It was about detail and stability. My plan wasn't just every other weekend. It included specific transition routines, detailed after-school schedules, and an agreement on how school holidays would be divided years in advance. Crucially, it included proof that my home was geographically closer to his school and community activities than Lisa's new place, demonstrating superior logistical stability.
You eventually won the right to shared physical custody. What was the final, definitive evidence that swayed the judge and showed that a father could be the primary stabilizing force? My lawyer told me the judge was most impressed by 2 things. First, the consistent quality of my documentation, proving my continuous involvement. Second, my actual home environment. I had completely restructured my apartment to give Ethan his own dedicated private space. The judge saw I wasn't just offering a few nights a week. I was offering a fully functional, stable, second primary home that prioritized his routine above my convenience. How did this experience change your relationship with your son? Did the battle itself cause emotional damage? The battle was heartbreaking for him, yes. He saw the tension. But I made a strict rule. I would never speak ill of his mother to him. The fight forced me to become a more conscious, intentional father. I realized that my most important document wasn't the court order. It was the time I spent with him.
It changed me from a man who thought he was a good dad to a man who knew he was a fighting dad. How are things now? Has the final ruling brought the stability you fought for? Yes, the air is cleared. Lisa and I now communicate strictly through a co-parenting app, which helps keep the emotion out of logistics. Ethan is thriving with the routine. The system finally recognized that both parents are valuable, but it took a brutal fight to enforce that equality.
Finally, what is your message to other fathers out there who are currently facing this seemingly uphill battle against the presumption of the primary caregiver?
Document everything. Get a lawyer who believes in your role as a parent, not just a visitor. Find support groups. And never, ever give up your voice. Your child needs you to be the one fighting for their stability. You have the right to be a primary parent.
David, thank you for sharing your grueling but ultimately successful fight for equality in parenting. You've been listening to Voices Unlocked. Join us next week when we discuss